Hi, I'm Catherine Comden, Behavior Program Manager at Willamette Humane Society in Salem, Oregon. Have you ever experienced handling your dog and he pulls away from you? Maybe he's even growled at you because he's truly uncomfortable. Well, today on the show we're talking about body sensitivity and helping dogs feel more comfortable being touched all over their bodies. Joining me today on the show is Kelsey Weber from Positively Trained. She's also a great volunteer at our shelter, and I'm happy to have her. Together, we're going to give you some great tips on not only saving you some money, saving some time, and also just creating a pleasant relationship between you and your dog. Join us today on Pets and People. Well, Kelsey, thank you so much for coming on the show again today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I love being able to discuss these concepts with you and help our pet owners have a better relationship with their dogs. It's really not difficult to train your dog to do anything when you find out what they're motivated by and for. And so today's topic, we're going to talk about handling sensitivity. So when you are talking with a client, what's your first signal that the dog might have some kind of handling sensitivity issue?
Well, a lot of times I get clients that tell me, you know, my dog won't let me pick up their feet, or my dog won't let me brush them, or maybe they bite at the brush or something like that.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that owners feel comfortable handling their dogs, but also that dogs feel comfortable being handled.
That's so important because if the dog is relaxed and feeling comfortable, we might be able to avoid a situation where the dog is showing signals that are not easy to miss, right? So they might be showing their teeth, they might be growling, they might actually bite to gain more space. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to work with some dogs and help them become more comfortable, sort of show the steps to becoming comfortable being handled all the way through nail trims. So, but let's get started with what we have here on the table. One of the things that I always begin my discussion about handling and body sensitivity with is to tell the story of this brush. And if we can just zoom in on there and get a good shot of that. That's not a dog's chewing on the brush. This was how my golden retriever felt the very first time that I brought a brush out to him. I adopted him at 11 months. I was his fourth owner. And when I brought the brush out the very first time to work with him, to brush him, because he was a golden retriever with all of that hair, he took a bite of that brush. And I was thankful that it was the brush and not me. But it immediately bumped up handling sensitivity training to the top of his list as a priority. At the time, I had little people in the house, and I wanted to make sure that he was going to be safe if they ever bumped up to him, or they wanted to brush him, or they got their fingers caught in his fur. And so we immediately began working on handling issues and making him feel comfortable. So our best friend when we're doing any kind of that kind of conditioning is working with some high value food. Yes. Right?
And it's important to note that that's all in the eye of the learner, right? So it's really important to pick a food that's good for that dog really finds high value. So having a good variety here is really important.
Exactly,
too.
And we might be taking into consideration things like dietary needs. Maybe it's a dog that needs a special kind of treat, certain allergens are present, those kinds of things. But then of those choices, finding things that are highly palatable. So we have a veritable smorgasbord of treats here that I'm sure the dogs that we're working with will be happy to help us test. And then of course the old standby, the Kong, which can be used all sorts of ways. We might smear some peanut butter on the inside, holding that while we're helping the dog just get over being handled and touched. There's lots of approaches that you can actually take in this kind of training, and so there really is no one right way. We're going to show a couple different examples of getting started though, and give some people some options. But from your perspective, have you ever had a situation where you've been handling a dog, working with a dog, and then really thankful that you had done the
Yes,
training?
Definitely. I've had multiple experiences like that, but the first one that comes to mind is I had a client that was a doodle, so he obviously has lots of fur, and he had handling sensitivity and aggression towards the groomer. And so that was something that we had started working on so that he could be groomed, but I was out on a walk with him recently, and we were walking through a park, and he got a little piece of bark stuck in his paw, and 6 months ago, there's no way I could have handled him because he would have definitely bit if I went to his foot.
Wow.
But now I was able to really simply reach down there, pull the piece of bark out, and everything was fine.
Something that a lot of people take for granted is that they can just handle their dogs and do whatever they need. But dogs that have been groomed roughly or have had a lot of handling, they can carry some emotional baggage.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
So what we want to do is help them overcome that and actually enjoy the process, enjoy the procedure, even ask us, please do my nails, which is where I've gotten my dog, and we'll show her in just a little while. But when I started working with Joy, and she was 8 or 10 weeks old, she was just a baby puppy, and I went to reach for her foot to give her a little touch, just a little bit touch. She turned around and nailed me. She said, no way, don't touch my foot. That's not going to happen. And I said, guess what's going to be important in your life? Guess how you're going to earn every little kibble for the next couple of weeks? And we did. We made that a really high priority, such that when I began doing some agility work with her, she ripped a paw pad. And I was able to then take her paw, medicate it, treat it, avoiding lots of expensive veterinary care because I could help her get through that and to heal. So this kind of body sensitivity training, teaching the dog to be comfortable being touched anywhere on his body, is a valuable thing for all dogs. I think this is something I teach in my puppy classes as just part of the normal curriculum because, again, it might be a piece of bark, it might be an injury. We want to be able to touch the dogs anywhere on their body and have them feel good about it.
Right, that's really important.
Well, why don't we get some dogs out?
Excellent.
So let me introduce you to Ignite, otherwise known as Iggy. She's a good girl, yes she is. She belongs to a friend of mine who has informed us that she does have some slight body sensitivity issues, and particularly with her tail. But how do you get started with your clients' dogs in working through this? Clearly she's okay with having her feet touched. And that's exactly where we want to go, right? We want them to offer body parts. And a lot of people will teach their dogs to shake, not realizing that that's actually a really good setup for teaching nails. We're not going to do nails quite yet, Missy. So give us some tips on getting started.
Yeah, so I like to look at the overall picture of the dog. I break it down to 7 body parts. So I want to make sure that I can handle all 7 of those points because those are, necessary things to be able to groom them or check for overall health signs and that sort of thing. So when I'm looking at a dog, I look at their muzzle, I look at their eyes, I look at their ears, I look at their paws. I want to be able to check their belly, so the whole underside. I want to make sure I check out their skin and coat to, make sure that we don't have any mats or that sort of thing, to see if that's healthy. And then the last piece is I want to really look at that tail too and make sure that from front to back, tip of the nose to tip of the tail, my dog is healthy and and able to be handled. So that's really important.
Okay. Great. So when we get started with this, again, we want to audition some treats.
Yes.
We want to make sure that the food that we're using is actually reinforcing for the dog. So we've got a number of things there, some cheese, hot dog, and we'll say, do you like that? Do you like that? Will you eat them both? She went for the cheese first, so that's really nice.
And I like to try different hands too, because some dogs tend to go for the right hand versus the left hand. So I want her to, so she likes the left hand.
Okay, somebody in her family is left-handed.
So she seems to like both of those. So I think either of those would work pretty well.
Great. And then we're going to break up the treats really small because we want to give a lot of them. And, sometimes we work with people who are averse to using food, they're worried about it. And I'm just going to answer that with saying the dogs aren't worried about it.
Right.
They love it. And so how long would you do your job if you weren't being paid? And so we want to pay the dog, not only for good behavior, but also for great associations. So if we can help her to relax and feel good, food is a great message to them because they can't both be aroused and nervous and still consume the treats. So why don't we get started?
So I like to have a handful of goodies. And again, I want to see if I can, slowly build up to being able to touch her all over. I know she is a little bit sensitive, so I'm going to pay attention to her body language and see if she's stressed or how comfortable she is. So to start, I'm just going to present the touch, give her a goodie. You got to get that out of my hand. There you go. And then back off. And then I'm going to come in again. I'm going to present the touch, give her a goodie, and then back off for a second. I want to make sure to always give her space afterwards because one, I want her to think the goodies only happen when I'm touching her, so that touching is good. I also want to give her some relief. I don't want to add on too much pressure because that might make her not want to play anymore.
That's a really good point. And so what we're looking for is watching her body language and her willingness to approach. And I keep watching her come closer and closer
Closer and closer, yeah. So I'm leaning back and back.
That's one good sign. But what can happen, though, and I've seen this happen as well, is people get enthusiastic, they start coming forward, and the dog's anxiety level might be building. We might be having a dog who's actually approaching because of the food, and yet internally her stress is climbing.
Right.
So I love that idea of backing away and giving them a break, giving them a chance to go, okay, we're going to reset.
Right.
Good. So
So I just kind of work through her face. A lot of dogs are very used to their face being handled, but on the opposite side, a lot of dogs are a little bit nervous about hands approaching from the top of their face.
Sure.
So I want to make sure that I can come in and just kind of touch and give her a goodie. And again, I'm just watching her body language to see how comfortable she is. She is so interested in the food. She seems to be just fine with the face at this point. So I just want to see if I can touch and then be done. And then kind of work through the body, see if I can touch an ear and then be done. And I kind of pay attention to that leaning forward. She's not trying to avoid me, she's approaching me, which is nice.
For sure. And the timing that you're giving her is very much associative learning. So she's getting the food at the exact same time that the touch is happening. And then what I tend to do then is move it forward a little bit more and say, after we've had a few repetitions of this, a few sessions, I want to be able to say the touch is going to bring the food.
Produce the food, yes.
And then the touch is going to go away and the food goes away as well. So making that kind of an association for the dog tends to keep them in the game.
Yeah.
She's very much in the game.
She is very much in the game. And again, I always want to watch her body language. So if I go to handle an ear and she gets nervous, I'm going to change how I handle that ear also. So I'm not going to be quite as forward with my motions. I might not have the same duration. I might shorten that a little bit too. So it's always based on what her threshold is and where she's comfortable.
Yeah, I love that concept. And the idea is we go as far back in the sequence as we need to, that the dog is relaxed as we move forward.
Yes,
so she's tolerating that really, really well. But some dogs, as you reach for them, you can kind of see them shrink their head away. A lot of people come in and just bam, 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 right on top of the dog's head. And the dog goes, oh, I don't like that. And so if that's your dog, if your dog is backing away from you as you're reaching forward, you can start with just barely reaching and feeding the dog, not even touching, but just that beginning reach, and then feed and remove your hand.
Right.
Yeah. Good.
Hi, you're very cute.
So do we want to work a little bit on the tail?
Yeah, we can, definitely. So I'm just going to kind of shift her a little bit here so I can get back and reach that part. Because I know that she's sensitive about her tail, I'm going to go really slow and see at what point is she showing me signs that she might not be wanting to do the exercise anymore. So I want to see, can I touch down her back? That worked pretty well. I know, you got to get it out of my hand. Touch down her back, give her a goodie. Nice job. Touch down her back, give her a goodie.
Good.
And that's all looking really nice. Oh, she moved. Touch down her back, give her a goodie.
Good.
And then I'm just going to slowly work up to being able to go down her tail. So touch her tail. Yes, good girl.
Good.
Nice
So
job.
things that we're looking for the dog's ability to be relaxed during this is overall body tension. And in this dog with pointy ears, I'm watching her ears tense up just a little bit as you're coming closer and closer to the tail. It's very subtle, but there's just a teeny, she says, how about self-serve? There we go. She says, I'll give you some positive associations. Hey, Ig, come on, honey. Good girl. Good job. Come on over. She says, no way. This is too much fun over here. So she's willing to stay engaged. She says, I'll offer you these other behaviors as long as we're at it. But what we want to do is not go too far, not go too far too fast. And any little body signal that says she's done means you need to slow down a little bit and not try to make as much progress so soon.
Hi.
She says, I like it.
Cute.
Well, she seems to be feeling really good. I want to take the rest of the time that we have available and go through some specifics about feet handling and doing some nail trims. So we'll be back with our next guest.
Good girl.
So this is Joy, and she's my girl. She's 5 years old, and as I said, when I first got her, she declined having her feet held. She didn't like having her feet touched at all, and so she didn't like her head touched, and she still tends to kind of lean away. It's not her favorite thing. She's not a cuddle dog. She has work to do. She prefers not to be. She doesn't mind under the collar there. That's okay. Which brings up another point in desensitization. It doesn't always have to be about the food. Sometimes I will use a place where they maybe don't like to be touched as much, followed by a place that they really love to be touched. So if a dog is handling sensitive on his head, I might barely touch the head and then lots of scratching on the neck. Very easy to do when you're just hanging out with your dog. In fact, I also use that same technique with my cat. So it works with all species, right? All right, but this particular dog, we're going to do some work today to talk about nail trimming, and we do have some options. If you want to reach up there, we've got a couple different nail trimmers there. And depending on the type of tool that you're going to use, you want to be able to have the dog relaxed and comfortable with whichever it was, because they're different to the dog. This one makes a little clicky sound. This one has an entirely different pressure on the nail. So you want to make sure that whatever tool you're using is the one that you're working with for desensitizing them, getting them comfortable. When we're talking about desensitizing a dog to having their nail trimmed, we want to look at all of the variables. So we've got to talk about what kind of tool we're using. It'll vary depending on what you have access to and what you're comfortable using. And I prefer to use a Dremel, which then we've got to talk about desensitizing for the sound, the vibration, the feel of it, how it's going to feel up close to her. We want to talk about some safety issues as well. And we want the dog to feel comfortable and engaged the entire time. Where we started was, can I touch your foot? So I'll handle her foot, and then I'm going to give her a treat. And I'll let the foot go. So the touch comes, the food comes, the touch goes away, food goes away. Touch comes, food comes, touch goes away, food goes away. And that can be worked on, as you said, through all of the body parts. But specific to the nails, what I want to make sure is that I can actually hold on to the nail, extend it, Dremel or clip, and the dog is relaxed, because in the nail there is blood supply. And if you cut too far back, then the dog not only will bleed a lot, but it hurts.
Right.
And I think a lot of owners have experienced that fear. I find out that they're just as afraid of hurting the dog as the dog is worried about being. That's a default behavior that I've trained her to do, and she cannot stand having all this high value stuff right here. There is such a thing as having too much of a good thing, and for this dog it was too exciting for her to have all of that high value food, so we've taken away most of it, and we're going to start with another method. Yes, we are. One thing that I want to show, if you're working with a dog who has feet sensitivity, I like to pack a bunch of peanut butter right in the Kong, and I can put that right in my knees there and hold that, and then I can do what I need to do for the dog. A lot of times I can say, okay, I'm going to handle your feet back there, I'm going to get this guy up here, and we're going to just go ahead and trim while you're engaged in eating. Okay, I don't tend to do that an awful lot, but sometimes you just have to get it done. And again, you want to work with a dog with this technique who's comfortable around food being handled in case they might have issues. It's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show. We'll have to do that elsewise. But that's one way to handle it. I like to always trade up for the food. If he's got something or she's got something that she really finds valuable, I don't want to just take it away without bringing her something. But this dog loves training for food, and so I have downgraded to just plain old grain-free kibble. This is her regular diet. This is what she gets for breakfast and lunch and dinner, and she obviously likes it. So the very first step that we would do would be to handle her feet, and I tend to use a mouth click as a marker. I want the dog to make a real strong association with the moment that is being paid. So we're moving away from the classical conditioning, which is just plain old association, and onto your behavior matters. So I'm looking for her not pulling away. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to feed. The click has meant to her in the past, because I've conditioned it, means food is coming. So then I can use it as a marker, and then the food will happen. And therefore, I can begin to work up step by step. And you can tell that she's holding very still. She's learned that if she pulls away from me, the training stops. And so we're moving into that operant conditioning where she is controlling, she has choice, and is controlling whether the session will continue or not continue. And so what I get is a dog who says, oh yes please, can we do that again? You sit, very nice. Which is I also can lay down. It's usually her position when we're doing nails. Good. And the same thing goes when I've got the Dremel going. So if she might be sound sensitive, so what would you do?
You want to just work on the Dremel on its own. So don't necessarily pair it with handling the feet in the beginning if she's not used to the Dremel noise.
Yeah, for sure.
So we just want to desensitize in the same way, but we want to use a noise instead of a touch.
Exactly. And so we might start far away if we have a sound sensitive dog. We're going to start far, far away. I can click, and then I can feed her. Right? Very good. And in the same way, I need to be able to bring this vibrating piece of equipment close to her body. And so I want to work through steps that allow her to experience the vibration without the association to her feet. Again, with dogs that have long coats, we want to be really careful. This is a spinning top, and it will grab dog hair. Ask me how I know this. Bad stories. You make mistakes and you learn and move on. So a couple of tricks: if you have a dog with fuzzy feet, you can actually wet the paw down and get the hair out of the way. I've also heard of people taking a nylon stocking and putting their dog's toes through so that they can just press down all of the hair and work just with the nails. So those are just some safety tips to watch out for. So it's a lot of variables to keep track of. How do you advise your clients on what to work on first or how to proceed?
I just always do short sessions, baby steps, and work on what the dog feels comfortable with. So once I get to the point where I can easily handle the feet, then we can move on to the Dremel piece. Like I said, in the beginning, I work on the Dremel noise as a totally separate desensitizing exercise, so that we're not necessarily pairing that I'm going to grab your feet when the Dremel noise happens. So we want to make both of those positive associations, and then we start pairing them together and bringing that association together so that she figures out that nails and Dremel are both a fun thing.
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly right. And so Joy is a very busy girl, and she thinks I'm not moving quite fast enough. So I'm taking a little break with her, asking for another behavior. And so if you have a dog who is either anxious or just very high drive, you want to watch those thresholds of frustration and not go too long without giving them a break. I'm just simply asking her for a hand target, which is meant for her to put her nose right on my hand, and then she gets a treat. So that's an easy game and a nice little break. She's starting to roll over and offer me her body because she is ready for me to do the rest of her feet. I'm going to actually turn her around here, and I can do that with just a little bit of luring and see if we can get to the rest of these nails. She says, I'm going to go have that first. All right, miss, come here. Sit. Very nice. Can you lay down? Thank you. Can I see your belly? All of those things are trained behaviors. I've asked her and trained her how to do. This is no different. It's just something, a procedure that I need to be able to do to you. I need to access those feet. And so, because she's had all of those steps together, I'm going to work on simply touch. I'm going to click that moment. I can reach around and provide the food. You can also have a friend help you so that there's less to keep track of. Joy, can you lie down? Yep. And so I can do this part, and then you can feed. And I'm going to touch, and when I click, you feed. And when the food comes, the hand comes, the food comes, the hand goes away, the food goes away. And in that manner, we can move forward. Working on a little bit of duration, getting her to hold that position a little bit longer. And although she's paying attention to both of us, there's no sign that she's uncomfortable with this. She's just wanting it a little bit faster.
Right.
Speed this up. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. This one has a variable speed, and I'm trying to find the low speed. Okay, I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. I'm going to start on a nice low speed. I'm going to come down. I'm going to separate her toe from the rest of her foot. Just a little bit of grinding. And then I release. Retreat. Do one nail at a time. Okay, if she pulls away, I stop the session. I just say, oh well, too bad. If you're a really good dog, I'll trim your toenails. If you're not able to hold still and relax, oh, then the game is over. I still love you, and it's okay. And in that way, when I bring this out, both of my dogs are jockeying for position and can't wait to get started. They both really want to be the first one to get their nails trimmed because it's all good stuff. And so I'm going to try again. There you go, just like that. So what used to be fairly traumatic for her, just simply having her feet touched, now she's engaged, she's relaxed, she's asking me to continue. She would love for it to happen some more. I'm going to give her a little bit of a super duper treat as we finish up, and we talk just a little bit about any of the handling sensitivity that your dog might be having. The main parts that we want to hit are
those 7 points. So I want to make sure that, again, I can touch all the different parts of their body, and I always go at their pace. So we're looking at the muzzle, the eyes, the ears, the paws, the belly, skin and coat, and then their tail.
Yeah, for sure, because we might need to access any of those body parts at any time, and the dog should not just tolerate it, but actually enjoy it and look forward to it, not only for the purpose of his happiness, but ethically. I think it's important that we're treating animals with an understanding of their emotional needs and desires and choice. So important that the animal chooses whether he wants to interact with us and how. So it's definitely worth working on the body sensitivity training and helping them become less sensitive for all of those just regular husbandry things, including taking a bath. And so peanut butter in the bathtub. Now the trick is, though, we want to talk just real quickly about the concept of a poisoned cue.
Right.
And actually the peanut butter coming out could be a cue that the bath will happen if you don't do it right. And so if you have a dog who says, oh, if it has anything to do with a bath, I'm out of here. You want to be careful about how you present that. So thresholds, right?
Right.
How do you tell when it's okay to move on? How would we get started? Just say you had a client who says, my dog won't go anywhere near the bathtub, I have to drag him.
Right, so we want to go really slow. And in the beginning, it's just a matter of, can we walk into the bathroom? Can we walk towards the bathroom?
Exactly.
How close can we get and still have a happy dog?
Right. Right. And so you might start with, can you look towards the bathroom? And then I'm going to feed you and we're going to leave. Yeah. And then how about a little bit further? And I'm going to feed you and we'll leave. Now we'll work on it tomorrow. The most common mistakes people make doing this kind of training is going too fast for the dog. So you want to slow down, and it should all look very relaxed and happy. Go at their own pace and take your time with it. Pay them well, be generous. And if you need any help, I would love to help you. You can contact me at the Behavior Department at Willamette Humane Society on Turner Road. Come on down and visit us. We'd love to see you there. And who knows, you might just take home your next #1 fan.